The station was busy. Bright lights reflected off polished floors, and machines hummed softly. Travelers moved through the hallways, carrying small bags and crates. The station smelled like oil and metal, with a faint scent of food from a small market in the corner. Everyone seemed busy, in a hurry, except for Lyra. Lyra sat alone on a long metal bench near the docking bay. The bench had many empty seats, but no one came close to her. She kept her head down, her long hair falling over her face, and she hugged her small bag tightly. Her eyes scanned the crowd quietly, watching people move, but no one watched her. She had learned long ago that others did not want to be near her. Her species had a reputation. It was not a good one. People whispered strange stories about them, tales of bad luck and strange abilities that frightened others. Even at the station, humans and aliens alike avoided her. Children stared for a moment, and then looked away quickly. Merchants turned down her way when she tried to pass. The space around her felt heavy with silence. Lyra sighed softly. She wanted to stand and walk away, but she had a shuttle to catch. The shuttle would take her to the Frontier Defense Academy, a place where humans and aliens trained together. She had dreamed of it for years. But now that she was here, the fear felt heavier than her excitement. She was leaving her homeworld to prove that her species was not dangerous, but proving it meant being alone. She shifted on the bench, trying to make herself smaller, as if hiding would make her invisible. She watched a group of alien cadets laughing nearby. They looked strong and confident. Wearing uniforms with bright colors, they whispered to each other and pointed at her sometimes, and she felt her cheeks burn. She hated feeling small. But it was hard not to, when everyone else avoided her. The shuttle announcement sounded above the noise of the station. Shuttle 7. To the Frontier Academy, now boarding. All passengers proceed to Gate 4. Lyra stood slowly, gripping her bag tightly. Her boots made soft sounds on the metal floor as she walked to the gate. She tried not to look at the empty seats around her, but she noticed them anyway. No one sat next to her. It was always like this. As she reached the boarding area, a tall human man stepped forward and waited quietly. His name was Evan. He had simple brown hair, sharp green eyes, and a calm presence. He looked around for a moment and then walked toward the empty bench where Lyra had been sitting. Without hesitation, he sat down quietly next to her. Lyra stiffened. No one had ever sat next to her before. She glanced at him quickly, half expecting him to leave. But he didn't. He just sat, relaxed, and looked straight ahead. She wanted to say something, to ask why he was not afraid, but her throat felt tight. She only nodded slightly, unsure what to do. Evan noticed her glance. He smiled softly, not in a teasing way, but as if he understood. He said, "Hi. I needed a place to rest. Mind if I sit here?" His voice was calm, friendly, and not at all strange or threatening. Lyra blinked. She could not remember the last time anyone had spoken to her kindly. She shook her head slowly. I don't mind," she said quietly. Her voice was soft, almost lost in the hum of the station. Evan nodded, still smiling, and shifted slightly to make more space without being too close. She noticed that he didn't frown or pull away, even when other passengers looked at them strangely. He seemed normal, human, and yet, unlike the others, he did not avoid her. The boarding line moved forward, and other passengers began to take their seats in the shuttle. Some glanced at Lyra and Evan, whispering quietly. She heard snippets of conversation, words like dangerous and cursed, but Evan did not react. He remained calm, and slowly, Lyra felt herself relax a little. It was strange to feel safe next to a stranger. When it was time to board, Evan stood and offered his hand to Lyra. She hesitated, but took it. The contact was brief, but it gave her courage. Together, they walked onto the shuttle, the doors sliding closed behind them. The cabin was crowded, but not uncomfortably so. Lyra chose a window seat, and Evan took the seat next to her, without hesitation. As the shuttle lifted off, the vibration and noise made Lyra flinch. The engines roared softly beneath her feet, and the cabin lights flickered with the movement. She gripped her bag tightly, her knuckles white. She had flown many times before, but traveling to the academy felt different. This journey was the start of something important, and she was alone, in the sense that no one from her species would be there to help her. Evan noticed her hands trembling and reached out, placing a steady hand near hers on the armrest. He didn't touch her, only let her see that he was calm, grounded. "It's okay," he said softly. "We'll get there safe. I've flown this route before." Lyra looked at him, surprised by the calmness in his voice. She nodded slowly, unsure if she believed it yet. They watched the station shrink behind them. A tiny speck of lights and metal floating in the vast black space. Lyra felt a strange mixture of fear and wonder. Stars stretched across the windows, distant suns and planets moving silently. She had always dreamed of the frontier, but seeing it from here made her realize how far she had come and how alone she had been until now. Evan began to talk quietly about the academy, sharing details about the training, the instructors, and the friends he hoped to make. He spoke without arrogance, without pressure, just sharing information. Lyra listened, surprised at how much he trusted her to hear it. For the first time, she spoke without fear. She asked questions about the courses, about flying, about what to expect. He answered honestly, without pretending she was weak or strange. As the shuttle moved further into space, turbulence shook the cabin. Passengers gasped, some gripping seats or their neighbors. Lyra's heart raced, and she closed her eyes, gripping her bag tighter. She felt panic rising and wanted to hide. But Evan stayed calm beside her. He placed his hand lightly over hers on the armrest and said, "Breathe. We're okay. Just focus on me." Slowly, Lyra followed his voice. She took a deep breath, then another. Her hands unclenched slightly. The panic did not disappear, but it became manageable. She looked at Evan, and he smiled softly. Not too big, not too small, just steady. She realized he was not afraid of her species, not afraid of her. He saw her as a person. The shuttle landed smoothly at the academy station. The doors opened, and the cadets began to move toward the exit. Lyra stood, clutching her bag tightly, and followed Evan. The station outside was filled with banners, strange machines, and other cadets moving quickly to their classes. Lyra felt a mixture of nervousness and excitement. She had made it this far. She was finally at the Frontier Academy. As they walked through the halls, other cadets looked at Lyra strangely. Some whispered, and a few even avoided her path. She felt the old fear rising, the same fear she had felt at the station bench. But Evan walked beside her calmly, without hesitation, without fear. He treated her as if she belonged here, as if she were not strange or cursed. Lyra realized something important. One small action sitting beside her, speaking to her kindly, had changed how she felt about this journey. It had made the impossible feel possible. She was still alone in many ways. But now, she had someone who believed in her. Someone who saw her as more than the rumors, the whispers, or the fear. They reached the dormitory assigned to Lyra. She paused, looking at the small door with her name printed in simple letters. She was nervous, but Evan waited outside patiently. He gave her a small nod. "Nod. I'll see you at training tomorrow. You're going to do fine," he said. As she entered her room, she placed her bag down carefully and looked out the small window. Stars twinkled far away, and the academy lights glowed softly. She thought of the bench at the station, of Evan sitting quietly beside her. She smiled to herself, finally understanding that some moments, some choices, could change everything. For the first time in a long while, Lyra did not feel completely alone. She knew the journey ahead would be hard, filled with challenges, with people who might not accept her. But she also knew that she had someone by her side, someone who had seen her for who she really was. And that small act of kindness made her feel brave enough to face the frontier. Part 1 ended with Lyra lying on her bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about stars, about journeys, and about Evan. She whispered to herself softly, "Maybe this time, things will be different." And for the first time in a long time, she believed it could be true. The next morning, Lyra woke up early. Sunlight streamed through the small window of her dorm room, painting the walls with soft gold. She sat on her bed for a moment, listening to the sounds of the academy waking up. Footsteps echoed in the hall, voices of cadets calling to each other, the low hum of machinery running in the background. She felt nervous and excited at the same time. Today was her first full day of training. She had heard stories about the academy, how it was tough, how cadets were pushed to their limits, and how only the strongest or the smartest survived. Lyra was not sure she was either, but she had a reason to be here. She wanted to prove that her species was capable, that she could be strong and brave like anyone else. Evan was already waiting outside her dorm when she opened the door. He had a small bag slung over one shoulder, and his uniform looked neat, though he did not seem concerned about impressing anyone. He smiled when he saw her. "Good morning," he said. "Ready for your first day?" Lyra nodded. "I think so," she said. Though her voice sounded small even to her, she felt a flutter of nervousness in her stomach. "It will be hard," she added quietly. Evan shrugged lightly. "Everything is hard at first. It's easier once you know what to expect. Come on, I'll show you the way." He walked ahead confidently, and Lyra followed. The academy halls were wide and clean, with banners of different species and classes hanging from the ceiling. Cadets hurried to classrooms, simulation rooms, and training grounds. Everywhere she looked, she saw people who looked strong, skilled, and confident. Lyra felt her chest tighten. She worried she did not belong here. She kept her head down, trying not to be noticed. But Evan walked beside her naturally, like she was not a problem, like she belonged as much as anyone else. That small act of acceptance made her feel slightly braver. Their first lesson was in the simulator room. Cadets practiced piloting small crafts through obstacle courses designed to test reflexes, speed, and strategy. Lyra had never used a simulator before, and the controls felt strange under her fingers. The screen in front of her lit up, showing a three-dimensional space filled with moving obstacles, glowing rings, and simulated enemy drones. Evan was next to her, adjusting his seat and controls. "Don't worry too much," he said quietly. "Just focus. Your instincts will help you." Lyra nodded. She tried to remember his calm voice as she moved the controls slowly. The first few attempts were clumsy. She collided with walls, missed rings, and nearly ran into simulated drones. Cadets around them whispered and laughed quietly. Lyra felt her cheeks burn. "You're not supposed to be this slow," one cadet said, sneering. "Maybe your species really is unlucky." Lyra's hands shook, and she was about to say something, but Evan placed his hand lightly on hers. "Ignore them," he said softly. "You're doing fine. Just try again." His voice was steady, patient, without any judgment. Lyra took a deep breath, recalling the feeling of calm he gave her on the shuttle. She adjusted her grip, focused on the lights and rings, and tried again. This time, she moved more smoothly. Her fingers reacted quickly, and her eyes tracked the obstacles with precision. She dodged simulated drones, passed through rings without collision, and even managed to take down one enemy craft. A small thrill ran through her. Evan smiled beside her, nodding in approval. After several rounds, Lyra's confidence grew. She realized that the whispers of the cadets meant nothing. Evan's presence, his calm encouragement, made her feel capable. He did not judge her, did not make fun of her, and that made her brave. When the lesson ended, she felt exhausted but proud. Lyra and Evan walked out of the simulator room together. Cadets crowded the hallways, rushing to the next class, and some still whispered about Lyra. She ignored them, focusing instead on Evan. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for helping me back there." He shrugged. "I didn't do much. You did it yourself. You have talent. You just need to trust yourself." Their next lessons were more physical. Cadets ran obstacle courses, lifted weights, practiced hand-to-hand combat, and learned teamwork drills. Lyra struggled at first. Her body was not as strong as some of the other cadets, and she feared being pushed too hard. But Evan stayed near her, giving advice when needed, showing techniques, and encouraging her quietly. During lunch, they sat together in the mess hall. Trays clattered around them, and cadets talked about classes, training, and competitions. Lyra ate slowly, still nervous about the whispers and stares. Evan spoke about his home, a quiet town on a distant planet. He told stories about flying through canyons, racing small ships, and helping neighbors with simple tasks. Lyra listened, feeling her anxiety ease. "It sounds peaceful," she said softly. He nodded. "It is, but I like challenges too. That's why I'm here." "What about you? Why did you come to the academy?" Lyra hesitated. She had never told anyone before. I want to prove that my species is not dangerous," she said finally. "People fear us. They avoid us. I want to show that we can be trusted, that we can be strong." Evan smiled. "Then you're already doing it. You're here, facing challenges, learning. That's what counts. People will notice eventually." After lunch, cadets returned to training. Lyra was paired with Evan for a teamwork exercise. They had to navigate a small craft through a simulated combat field together. She controlled the sensors and navigation, while Evan focused on maneuvering and targeting. At first, coordination was difficult. They collided with obstacles, missed targets, and almost fell behind other pairs. "Slow down," Evan said. "Watch the sensors, not just your instincts." Lyra adjusted, and soon they moved smoothly. Evan followed her instructions without hesitation. She realized that their teamwork felt natural, like two halves of the same system. They passed through the course with fewer mistakes than most cadets, surprising some instructors. By the end of the day, Lyra was tired but happier than she had been in months. She realized that Evan's quiet presence made a difference. With him, she felt stronger, braver, and capable. The whispers and stares of the other cadets did not seem as heavy anymore. That evening, back in the dormitory, Lyra unpacked her things slowly. She looked at the small room, the bed, the desk, and the window, showing the stars outside. She thought about the day, about the moments she almost gave up, and about Evan's calm voice guiding her. She smiled to herself. For the first time, she felt like she belonged somewhere, even if only a little. There was a knock on her door. It was Evan. He held 2 small trays of food from the mess hall. "Thought you might want some company," he said with a small smile. Lyra hesitated, then nodded. They sat on the floor with their trays, eating quietly and watching the stars. They did not need to talk much. The silence felt comfortable. Evan told small stories about his training, about the pilots he had met before, and Lyra shared tiny details about her home world. She was careful not to reveal too much, but she felt safer talking to him than anyone else. As night fell, cadets returned to their rooms. Lyra lay on her bed, thinking about the day. She realized that she had faced her fears, learned new skills, and formed a small connection with someone who treated her kindly. She felt hope. The academy would be difficult, but she knew she was not completely alone. Evan had shown her that one person's kindness could make a difference. Just before sleep, she whispered to herself, "Maybe I can do this." And for the first time in a long while, she believed it. She felt ready for the challenges ahead, for the lessons, the drills, and the strange adventures that waited. With Evan by her side, the frontier did not seem as scary anymore. The morning air at the academy was cold and crisp. Lyra woke early, the stars fading as the first lights of the training grounds lit up. The sounds of boots on metal floors and distant machinery filled the dorm halls. Today was going to be harder than yesterday. She knew. Evan had warned her that training would test not just her body, but her mind. She dressed quickly, putting on her standard cadet uniform. It was plain, but functional. She tied her hair back and checked her bag. She had learned from the first day that being prepared mattered more than looking good. She stepped out into the hall and saw Evan waiting, as always. He looked calm, adjusting his bag over one shoulder. "Good morning," he said with a small smile. "Ready for today?" Lyra nodded, though her stomach twisted nervously. She had watched other cadets wake up early, practice drills before class, and run obstacle courses. She felt small compared to them, but she told herself she had a reason to be here. She was not just fighting for herself. She was fighting for her species, for proof that they could belong. Their first exercise was combat drills. Cadets were paired and given simulated enemy drones. The goal was to move quickly, dodge attacks, and strike with accuracy. Evan and Lyra were paired together again. Lyra's hands shook as she gripped the controls. The simulator room filled with the sounds of alarms and flashing lights. "Focus on your partner," Evan said quietly. "We're in this together." Lyra nodded and took a deep breath. The first few rounds were rough. She missed targets, moved too slowly, and collided with obstacles. Other cadets whispered and laughed quietly. One even muttered, "She can't even handle a simulator." Typical. Lyra felt her cheeks burn, but she remembered Evan's calm presence. She looked at him, and he nodded encouragingly. Slowly, she found her rhythm. Her fingers moved with more precision. Her eyes followed the drones with sharp focus. She guided Evan, and he reacted instantly. Together, they moved through the course efficiently, striking targets and dodging obstacles. The instructors watched, taking notes, and some nodded in approval. Lyra felt a spark of pride. She was learning. And Evan's quiet guidance was helping her grow stronger. After the drills, they were sent outside to the physical training fields. Cadets ran obstacle courses that tested speed, strength, and agility. Lyra struggled at first. She was slower than most and stumbled over walls she had to climb. Some cadets laughed openly. "Come on, move faster," one said. "This is nothing." Evan ran beside her, offering advice and encouragement. "Don't rush. Use your strength wisely. You can do this." His voice was calm, steady. Lyra focused on his words, taking one step at a time, climbing walls slowly but steadily, crawling under nets, and jumping over hurdles. She noticed that other cadets still mocked her, but their words no longer had power over her. She had someone on her side who believed in her. By the end of the morning, Lyra was exhausted. Her muscles ached, her breathing was heavy, but she had completed the course. She had not been the fastest, but she had finished, and she had done it without panic, without giving up. Evan patted her shoulder lightly. "You did great," he said. See? You're stronger than you think. Lyra smiled, feeling warmth spread in her chest. After lunch, they returned to classroom lessons. Today's topic was strategy and teamwork. Instructors showed holographic simulations of battles in space, teaching cadets how to plan attacks, defend positions, and anticipate enemy movements. Lyra listened carefully. She realized that her species' abilities to sense small changes in the environment could be useful here. She shared a small suggestion during the exercise, and Evan nodded in approval. Good idea, he whispered quietly. Use your instincts. Lyra felt a small thrill of pride. No one else had noticed her suggestion, but Evan had. He treated her ideas as valuable, and that made her feel confident. The rest of the class went by quickly, with Lyra and Evan working quietly together, sharing notes and discussing strategies. Other cadets stared sometimes, whispering, but Lyra ignored them. She had someone who believed in her, and that was enough. Late in the afternoon, instructors announced a special test. Cadets were to patrol the outer areas of the academy, searching for simulated intruders. Lyra felt her stomach tighten. It was dangerous, even if only simulated. She remembered stories she had heard about real attacks near the frontier. Her heart raced. But Evan stood calmly beside her. We'll stick together, he said. Watch each other's backs. It's okay to be careful. The patrol began. Lyra and Evan moved slowly, scanning the area with sensors. They checked corridors, maintenance tunnels, and outer hangars. The simulation was realistic. Alarms sounded randomly, lights flickered, and automated defenses activated. Lyra's instincts were sharp. She noticed subtle changes in the environment, a shadow moving too quickly. A small panel, slightly open, and pointed them out to Evan. He reacted instantly, guiding their movements. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared. Other cadets panicked, running in all directions. Some collided with walls or each other. Lyra felt her heart race, but she focused on Evan's calm voice. Together, they moved toward the source of the alarm, navigating through obstacles and dodging hazards. They found a small squad of simulated intruders trying to access the main control panel. We'll block them, Evan whispered. Lyra nodded. She guided him through precise movements, predicting the intruders' paths. Evan acted swiftly, disabling the threat with minimal errors. Other cadets arrived moments later, and instructors noted their efficiency. Lyra felt a rush of pride. She had faced fear, worked with Evan, and succeeded. After the exercise, cadets returned to the main hall. Some whispered about Lyra again. A few muttered, maybe she isn't so bad after all. She ignored them, focusing on the feeling of accomplishment. Evan smiled at her. See? You're learning fast. Don't let them get to you. That evening, back in the dormitory, Lyra unpacked her things and checked her notes. She reviewed strategies, memorized patrol routes, and planned for tomorrow's exercises. Evan stopped by, carrying 2 trays from the mess hall. Thought you might want some company, he said, smiling. They ate quietly, sharing small stories. Lyra talked about a memory from her home planet, a quiet lake she used to watch as a child. Evan listened, asking questions, showing genuine interest. She realized how much easier it was to talk with someone who treated her like a person, not a rumor. As night fell, Lyra sat by the small window in her room. Stars twinkled softly in the black sky. She thought about the day, about the challenges, and about the moments she had almost given up. She realized that the whispers and stares of other cadets had less power over her now. She had Evan, and that made her stronger. But even as she felt hope, a small unease lingered. She had heard strange noises near the outer hangar, distant voices she could not identify. She tried to ignore them, telling herself it was only her imagination. Still, a tiny spark of worry remained. The frontier was dangerous, and she was learning that danger could appear anywhere, even inside the academy. She shook her head, trying to push the thought away. Tomorrow would bring more training, more lessons, and perhaps new challenges. She had faced one day of serious difficulty and survived. She could face tomorrow. She smiled to herself, feeling a quiet determination. "I'll do my best," she whispered softly, "no matter what." Evan knocked lightly on her door before leaving. "Good night," he said. "Remember, we face it together." Lyra nodded, feeling safe in a way she had not felt for a long time. She lay down on her bed, thinking about the day, the lessons, and the first signs of danger. She knew the journey ahead would be hard, but she also knew she was not completely alone. And for the first time in a long time, Lyra felt ready to face the challenges of the frontier, knowing that one calm, steady human had shown her that trust and friendship could make even the hardest days possible. She closed her eyes, listening to the soft hum of the academy at night, and drifted into sleep with a sense of hope she had not felt before.